Tonight on NewsWatch, the fight over same-sex marriage heads to the Supreme Court this week. What that could mean for traditional marriage.
Plus, the future of gun control in America. Why some say it will depend on voters, not lawmakers.
And as the number of fatherless households continues to grow, we'll look at how some are paying it forward on behalf of America's children. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Same-sex marriage takes center stage at the Supreme Court this week. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. The Supreme Court will hear two major cases involving what many consider the most contentious issue in modern America. As John Waggy explains in tonight's top story, rulings on the cases could open the door for gay marriage nationwide.
This was the scene just a few days ago outside the High Court as a long line of people camped out to get a seat for this week's gay marriage battles. On Tuesday, justices will hear arguments challenging California's Proposition 8, a law approved by California voters 4.5 years ago. It requires the state to recognize only marriages between a man and a woman. That law was overturned by a federal judge in 2010. Lawyers opposing Prop 8 will ask the High Court to strike down the law. Last week, the American Academy of Pediatrics announced its support of gay marriage, and gay parents Jason Howe and his partner hope it will resonate with the justices.
The important thing is that the child have two parents who are involved in his or her life, and not the sexual orientation of the parents.
But some church leaders are warning that the legalization of gay marriage could end the institution of marriage itself.
What I fear would happen is that people will just not be interested in marrying anymore. Marriage will become irrelevant.
The Archbishop says what the church teaches about marriage will be viewed as prejudiced.
If we want to know how people who do hold that view will be treated, we have to think about how are racial bigots treated in the country today.
On the docket Wednesday are parts of the Defense of Marriage Act, passed by Congress with large majorities in 1996. It prevents same-sex couples from receiving federal tax, pension, and other benefits available to married people. John Waggy, CBN News.
For more on this, we turn now to Bishop Harry Jackson, senior pastor of Hope Christian Church in Beltsville, Maryland. Bishop Jackson, why do you think it's important to stand up for traditional marriage, and what do you think will happen if the justices vote in favor of gay marriage?
Well, that's quite a question. Great to be with you. I think it's very important because of the far-reaching generational impact of this decision. I think it's going to affect what children are taught in the generations ahead, and it's being decided by a court that's being pressured by people who are looking at marriage as a temporal and perhaps even temporary institution. And so folks want rights for people to live together that they know, who may be in 3 or 4 marriage-like relationships over the course of their lifetimes, and they do not see the finality, stability, or the longevity of the institution and the ramifications of what kids are going to be taught in the years ahead in the schools.
How should the church be responding to all of this?
I think the church should finally be waking up to the fact that this is a big deal, and that in our lifetimes, what marriage is and how children are going to be taught about it, and religious liberty, how we will be allowed to speak about marriage from the pulpit. Remember, Aki Green was jailed in Sweden because he taught from Leviticus and Roman. So it had to be taught about in the Supreme Court of his land. He paid a fine, was jailed, was eventually set free, but it shows that there were problems there. In Canada today, you had better not speak on those issues from your pulpit. There's a repression and a certain amount of persecution that comes to the church in our friends in Canada's pulpits right now. These are real things that we have to contend with.
Do you think the fight for traditional marriage will be one that conservatives can win?
I think we can win it. I think the real issue is the religious liberty issue and the issue of whether we can practice marriage as we believe it on an ongoing basis. Remember that if same-sex marriage is allowed to be mandated by fiat, if you will, at the Supreme Court level for all of America, then right behind it, polygamy and many other forms of marriage will automatically sweep the land within just a matter of a few years.
Okay, Bishop Harry Jackson, thank you so much for being with us, sir.
We thank you for covering such an important issue at this critical time in our history.
Well, the battle over gun control is heating up again. Advocates on both sides say the next 2 weeks are critical. Lawmakers will head home where they'll hear from constituents right before an upcoming vote in the Senate. Heather Sells has more.
They're two of the loudest voices in the gun debate. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Wayne LaPierre of the National Rifle Association. But now they say it's up to voters to make their views known to Congress. At stake, a Senate bill calling for expanded background checks for all gun purchases, tougher penalties for gun trafficking, and more money for school safety. The NRA calls the background checks a, quote, dishonest premise, noting that mental health records are exempt from databases and pointing out that criminals won't submit to the checks.
It slows down the law-abiding and does nothing to anybody else.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has already dropped the ban on assault-style weapons, fearing it would sink the broader bill. His goal, debate and vote on the legislation next month. But as voters sort out the issue, they may encounter this: television ads and phone calls urging them to support the Senate bill. Bloomberg, a Republican turned independent, has just poured $12 million into TV spots and phone banks in 13 states.
I am cautiously optimistic. I think when you have an issue where 90% of the public, 80% of NRA members even, say that they think we should have reasonable checks before people are allowed to buy guns.
But LaPierre says that Bloomberg is trying to, quote, buy America, and that the public won't go along.
But he's going to find out this is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. And he can't spend enough of his $27 billion to try to impose his will on the American public. We have people all over, millions of people, sending us $5, $10, $15, $20 checks saying, stand up to this guy.
The NRA says there should be better tracking of the mentally incompetent to keep guns out of their hands. The group also says the administration should enforce already existing federal gun laws. Heather Sells, CBN News.
People in North Dakota will get the chance to vote next year on a measure that says life begins at conception. If it passes, it would basically ban abortions in that state. The North Dakota House approved the measure in a vote of 57 to 35. The Senate passed the bill last month. Critics of the Personhood Amendment call it unconstitutional. They point to the 1973 U.S. Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion until a fetus is considered viable. That's about 22 to 24 weeks.
It's spring, but winter isn't ready to let go just yet. A snowstorm pounded the central states and pushed east, enveloping western Virginia and Washington, D.C. People as far west as Colorado are still digging out tonight. And emergency crews say the weather may be to blame for at least 2 deaths in car crashes in Kansas and Missouri. Today, winter weather watches were issued for at least 15 states, and strong winds blew a tree into an apartment building in Atlanta.
I heard this cracking noise, and it came tumbling down like the London Bridge.
Lewis saw some of the highest snowfall with as much as 14 inches late Sunday.
Turning overseas, Cyprus approves a bailout plan, saving the country from a collapse of the banking system and preventing a potential crisis for Europe. The government has frozen bank accounts over 100,000 euros. It will seize a large amount of money from them as part of the plan to rebuild the banks. The details haven't been worked out. Analysts estimate investors might lose up to 40% of their money.
Secretary of State John Kerry is calling on Iran to release imprisoned American pastor Saeed Abedini. Kerry says he's deeply concerned about Abedini's fate. and he's disturbed by news he could be suffering from physical and psychological abuse. Kerry says, quote, "I welcome reports that Mr. Abedini was examined by a physician and expect Iranian authorities to honor their commitment to allow Mr. Abedini to receive treatment for these injuries from a specialist outside of the prison. The best outcome for Mr. Abedini is that he be immediately released." Jordan Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice calls this a game changer in the push for Abedini's freedom and one of the first proactive moves by the State Department since July. Abedini is serving an 8-year sentence for his Christian faith. Coming up, the gay marriage legislation that had protesters taking to the streets in France.
Someone once said, life doesn't give do-overs. But that's not entirely true.
What a remarkable comeback for Kurt Warner.
I'm Kurt Warner, and I got a second chance that changed my life. I remember those feelings. I didn't want to fail. I want to give you an opportunity to chase after your dream.
Seriously?
When you know you were meant to do something, you can't let life stand in your way.
This is what I've been trying for so many years.
I've been given a second chance.
The Moment, a new reality series hosted by Kurt Warner, premieres Thursday, April 11th at 10, only on USA.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Someone once said, life doesn't give do-overs. But that's not entirely true.
What a remarkable comeback for Kurt Warner.
I'm Kurt Warner, and I got a second chance that changed my life. I remember those feelings. I didn't want to fail. I want to give you an opportunity to chase after your dream.
Seriously?
When you know you were meant to do something, you can't let life stand in your way.
This is what I've been trying for so many years.
I've been given a second chance.
The Moment, a new reality series hosted by Kurt Warner, premieres Thursday, April 11th at 10, only on USA.
Hundreds of thousands took to the streets in France Sunday to oppose legislation allowing gay couples to marry and adopt. The peaceful protest turned violent, however, when demonstrators tried to push through police barricades toward the presidential palace. The Marriage for Everyone legislation is backed by French President François Hollande. During his election campaign, he pledged to legalize gay marriage. The measure was recently approved by the lower house of French Parliament, and it's set to head to the Senate next month.
Covering this issue in Paris, and he's back in the U.S. and joins us now for more. Dale, some might have the impression that France is sort of a je ne sais quoi, anything goes society. Sorry, I got to practice my French. But, you know, they sometimes criticize us for our moral stance in America. Not that we have perfect standards, of course, but, you know, why are so many French upset about this gay marriage law?
It's interesting because we think of them as sexually permissive, but it's still a Catholic nation, and almost in a patriotic sense, because a lot of people don't go to church. But they feel like this is a revolution against the French way of life. They also feel like this is unhealthy for children, the children that are going to be put into these gay families. And they feel like the French president should be spending his time on more important things, like how bad the economy is.
Now, you told me before we started the interview that some of the homosexuals actually oppose the gay marriage law.
Yeah, in fact, I interviewed one homosexual who's part of the coalition against gay marriage, and he explained why he's against it.
It goes too far in the sense that it makes the majority of the population live under a law that has been cast for a minority, which I don't consider fair. We have two parents of different sex wherever we are heterosexual or we are homosexual. There can't be two parents of the same sex. It's not natural.
Dale, it still seems odd, though, that some gays would oppose a gay marriage law in France.
It does, and there is something unspoken behind this, and it was hard for me to get them to admit it on camera. But in talking to them off camera, there is a buzz in France that this law could push Muslims, radical Muslims, over the edge. Already in France, gay couples in the street are sometimes attacked or harassed by Muslims, and there's a real fear that this will increase so-called homophobic attacks on them.
Any chance this bill will be defeated?
No, it's going to pass.
All right, very interesting. Très interessant. Dale Hurd, thanks for being with us.
Up next, how mentoring is changing the lives of kids across the country.
CBN.
Broken Eardrum is playing at the Civic tonight.
And you'll just have to miss it.
This is so incredibly unfair.
A special story of love and sacrifice.
Joy, Mom comes up with something.
Christopher Quantum, you and I are going to discuss your attitude right this minute. Superbook.
No.
Join the Superbook DVD Club and get Superbook's newest episode, He is Risen. Plus 2 copies to share with others. All for your gift of $25.
They have arrested Jesus, the Messiah. Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you?
No! Please! You can't! They've taken him to Golgotha. We must hurry. Mary is about to lose her son. The worst thing any mother could face. I am not leaving her.
Superbook. It's an amazing way to build a strong spiritual foundation in the children you love.
Mary, who are you looking for?
I've seen him! He is alive!
Superbook. He is Risen. Available now.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
America is facing a crisis, the gradual disappearance of the traditional family.
Yeah, fathers are vanishing from the picture, and we're seeing more and more single-parent families.
But as Ephraim Graham explains in tonight's Focus Report, people are working to turn the situation around, including one leading magazine editor who quit her job to get involved.
The nation's crime blotters are packed with examples. In Baltimore, police arrest 2 18-year-olds for murder and robbery. In Chicago, officers lock up an 18-year-old and 20-year-old for shooting and killing a 15-year-old girl. And in Albany, 7 people, mostly teenagers, arrested in the stabbing death of a 21-year-old. That's just 3 cases, 11 young suspects, and criminal defense attorney Tim Anderson says most are likely to share one painful reality.
You can see the pattern starting at the very, very beginning stages in these men's lives. You see it in every one of the reports of these people I deal with. No father, no father, no father. A parenting crisis, absolutely.
Some studies suggest 85% of young people in prison come from fatherless homes, and those homes are on the rise. There are more than 12 million single-parent families across the country, with more than 80% of them headed by single mothers.
You can't blame a single mom. If she has 3 kids, she's working 4 jobs to keep her house afloat. Can't blame her. You gotta just try to help as much as you can.
Anderson is helping. He spends most of his weekends with Chad Barnett, a high school senior whose dad is
out of the picture. I've never known him.
When I came into the picture, I was his second mentor and was really the only male in his life.
Nothing is as hard as getting through puberty. Then once you're through that, everything else seems little. So yeah, he's definitely helped me through a lot.
In 5 years, the pair has grown closer than brothers. Chad even works in Tim's law office after school.
Tim probably could have told himself, you know, I don't have the time, but he did make the time for me. And I think for anybody, it's possible to make the time. It's just about how badly you want to help someone.
It's doable, and it's the way that we're really going to change the entire, I think, face of this nation.
Susan Taylor is the former editor of the groundbreaking Essence magazine that's delivered inspiration to millions of Black women. After 37 years, she left that platform to start another, National Cares Mentoring. Its mission? Inspire people to take the time to mentor a child.
80% of Black 4th graders are reading below grade level, and 56% are functionally illiterate. 1 million Black men are incarcerated. And you know, failing schools are the pipeline to prison. So mentors stepping into that space create, oh my gosh, mentoring is just transformative.
National Cares is on the ground in more than 50 cities across the country and growing. We caught up with the team in Baltimore.
Part of what we got to figure out is how do we address the brokenness?
Taking its message specifically to African-American men in church.
Speaking life, this is what we go to church for. You know, the minister is group mentoring, is speaking to the congregants for 20 minutes, some for an hour, more, depending on what church you're in, speaking life and hope and possibilities right to our hearts. That's what mentoring is. It's inspiring, it's pushing, it's connecting them to the resources they need, our young.
I remember, you know, being at church and running around the yard.
Jonathan McReynolds is a church mentoring success story. Raised by a single mother in Chicago, New Original Church of God in Christ became his second home.
I had a lot of great, you know, male figures that God, you know, planted in my life that I was still able to look up to my pastor and some godfathers and some uncles, you know, as that father, and together, collectively.
I've never fallen this low before.
That voice may sound familiar. McReynolds recently released his first CD, Life Music. It's climbing the gospel charts.
I remember there were times when my cousin, you know, we would talk, and, you know, she's like, "Where's your dad?" And I'm like, I don't know, I don't have one. And I you know, innocently and genuinely meant that. You know, I don't, you know, feel that void, I don't feel that emptiness. And, you know, now I look back and I realize, you know, it was nobody but God, you know, being the father to the fathers like he promised he would be.
See, it wasn't meant for me.
While McReynolds travels the world singing songs he's written, he still comes home to Mom, his pastor, and his little Chicago church to serve as a mentor himself.
It's really just for the salt of the earth. First of all, to not lose its saltiness, and that's what a lot of my music is about, is we are here to preserve, and we are here, you know, we have to pray. We have to, you know, give as much of a good influence to these kids.
I'm tired of waiting on cycles to end.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Chicago.
So I'll lean on the shoulder.
Up next, how a group of American students is working to change the lives of orphans in India.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
Well, some Virginia college students are working overtime to deliver on a big promise they made to a group of orphans in India.
After a missions trip last year, the Regent University students promised to build the boys a home. They've already purchased the land, and this weekend, the Christ for India team set sail on a dinner cruise along the Elizabeth River to raise the funds for the building. They were joined by Pastor R. Abraham from India. The new boys' home will be a part of his growing ministry. He says the students' work is just one part of a big revival he's witnessing in his country.
Recently, we are having a revival in one of the eastern states called Orissa, where we used to have a big persecution against Christianity. And in the last 6 months, one of my churches, which was just 40 people, starting to see revival. People coming from nowhere. They don't have a clue. Who are they? Where are they coming from? Getting healed, set free.
That's wonderful. And listen to this. Pastor Abraham says that church has grown from 40 people to more than 3,000 in just 6 months.
Incredible.
That's revival.
Have you been to India?
I have not. Have you?
I've been one time. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And God is definitely moving there. And
He is all over the world. Yep.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of NewsWatch.
Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com. Hope you'll join us next time.
Good night.